Okay, so we shall continue the language fundamentals will continue. So today's class will talk about the data types and all that. So what is a data type? Any idea? What do you mean by data type? Data type. Data means yes. Okay, we're talking about the data types in your Java. Okay, what do you mean by data? Okay, one example data. Example data. Gathering information. Okay, 1 second. I think maybe it's there. Okay, so you talk about the gathering information. So generally, when you say data, it is, for example, when I talk about the student data, if I talk about the roll number, name, marks, this is the data of a student. So this is the data of my student. So you talk about some employee. So when you talk about the data of an employee, so it is the employee number, maybe the name of the employee, what salary, in which department the employee is working, what's the date of joining of that particular employee. This is what we call it as the data there. Understood? That is the data. Now, if I want to have the data to be stored in my computer using my Java language, I want to use my Java language for storing this particular data. Then what you can do is you need to have something what you call data types has to be defined. Now, what is the data type that you talk about now here is, okay, when you talk about the data types here, so in our Java, the data types have been classified into different types. Like what are the types means like I'm going to have numbers. Like for example, you talk about employee number, you talk about or student roll number, right? Or the age of a student, right? Like this is what you call numbers, we call it as. No, again, these numbers are classified into two types. So one is called numbers with decimal points and one more is numbers without decimal point. So we have numbers with decimal points and one more is numbers without decimal points. Oh, give me a minute. Okay. So we have the numbers, right? So numbers are basically two types for me. Numbers with the decimal point, other one is numbers without the decimal point. Generally in mathematics, numbers with the decimal point, we call them as float, we call them. So numbers with the decimal point in mathematics, we call them as float. Numbers without the decimal point in mathematics, we call them as integers. Like that, if I want to store the integer type of data, so in our Java, we are going to have a data type called int. I have a data type called int data type is there for me. So int is a data type which will help me to store the integer values. Okay. This is int. So this we are going to use it for integers. Okay. So this is the mathematical concept. So the mathematical concept is integers. Now we talk about the another one is called float. So what is this float means? In mathematics, you call them as the real numbers. Okay, this is the mathematical concept for me. Right? So based upon your requirement, what type of data that you are going to store, you're going to define the data types, different data types you're going to have it in our Java. Now, Okay. So when I talk about the data types, let's talk about the different data types now. So these data type talks about what type of value that I'm going to store, either the number or you want to have the numbers with the decimal point or number without the decimal point. And we also have, like, for example, employee name is there. So it consists of some characters, some alphabets it consists of. Then I define it as what you call character type. It all depends upon what type of data that you're going to define. You'll be defining what you call the data types you're going to define. And then we have something what you call variables. So what is the concept of variable means? Variables are one which will help me to store the data. So whenever you want to store the data, so first you need to define the data type has to be defined. Along with the data type, you need to tell the name of a variable. So what is the variable that you're going to use for storing that data you have to define. You will understand. So what is these variables? Variables are nothing but the names that we are defining for the memory location. So in my computer, there are lots of memory is going to be there. At some location, you are going to store the data. So where you are going to store the data, so it will be having its own addresses will be there, memory address will be there. But what we do is when in the programming, we give a name for the memory address. So using that memory address, we'll be putting the data into that particular memory address. For example, let us say you want to store the employee number you want to store. What you do is you define some variable name you'll be defining, and in that variable name you'll be storing the data. Internally, it is going to be stored somewhere in your memory, and that memory location is going to be given some name. That's what you call a variable name, you call it as. So remember, as a name says, so this is something which we're going to talk about. As the name says, it's a variable one, means its value can be changed inside my program. So whenever I want, the value can be changed. If I want, I can keep the value, but generally variable says that the value of the variable can be changed inside our program. Then we talk about the operators. So what are these operators? Operators are the one which will perform some kind of actions for us. For example, let us say I'm having two numbers are there. For two numbers, I want to add them. Okay, then I'll be using the operator like plus. Or I want to multiply them, then I'll be using the operator called star symbol. Okay, like that, based upon your requirement, you can use different types of operators can be made use of. Then we have what you call the control flow statements, or what you call control structures they are called. So what are these control structures means? These control structures are the one which will help me do some condition checking statements. Like for example, I'm having some conditions are there. I want to check the condition. Like let us say, so you want to tell the, I mean, a condition you want to have it where the employee number is greater than 100, you want to do something. Or the salary of an employee is going to be above 1000, you want to do something. That is what you'll be putting some conditions over there and you'll be doing the processing. When you talk about the control structures, we have two different types of control structures. One is called the condition checking statements and one more is called the looping statements. So these condition checking statements are the one which will help me to check a condition. So whereas when I talk about these looping statements will help me to repeat a statement or multiple statements more than one. So whenever I want to repeat something, then I'll be using the looping statements. Now these two looping statements and the condition checking statements, both together, we call them as control structures, we call them. When you're talking about the data types, so in our Java, the data types are defined into different types. Like we call them as a primitive data types, and other one is called a reference data type. So when you talk about the primitive data types, all these integers, characters, okay, the basic data types. So int, float, char, all these are going to be the basic data types for me. What you call the primitive data types. So from the primitive data types, we are going to have the reference data types are going to be there. So when I talk about my reference data types, like we are going to have what you call arrays, okay, the classes, interfaces, all these come under your reference data type. We'll discuss one by one what are these data types, how they are going to use it, everything we'll discuss. Okay, the left hand side you are going to see is what all these are going to be the basic data types, right, or what you call the primitive data types. See, depending upon your requirement, what type of data that you want to store. Like for example, I want to store some alphabets, and alphabets only I want to store. Okay, char I'll be using it. So we have byte is there. So what is this byte? For numbers, you'll be using byte, integer. So for numbers I want to use, I'll be using byte. Okay, short I'll be using it. I'll be using int, long I'll be using. These I'll be using it for the numbers without the decimal points. If I want to store the numbers with the decimal points, I want to use it. Then, so what I'll be doing is I'll be using the float data type and the double data type. I'm going to use it for numbers with the decimal points. If I want without the decimal point, then I'll be going with the byte, short, int, and long. So as a name itself says, a byte is going to be there. You're going to store very small amount of data. You want to store it. Then you're going to use the byte. Little bigger data you want to store it. So what you call the range. The data is we going to have what you call the range of the data. So what type of data, what is the value that you're going to store it? Based upon that, you can define what data type you want to have it. Either you want to have it as a byte or integer, sorry, int you want to have it, or long you want. Long is going to be the bigger one. It's going to give me the very large amount of data gets me stored into the long for us. Yeah, we'll discuss about the reference data types little later. We'll talk about them. Okay. So when I talk about the variables, I was just telling you about the variables. Variables are the one which are the temporary locations of where I am going to store my data. Remember, whenever you are going to declare a variable, the data will be stored into the variables. Okay. Then once you come out of your program, automatically what will happen? The data what we are going to store in the variables, it's going to be lost or it is going to be erased for us. Okay. Then what is the syntax that we are going to use? Any idea what is the syntax is? What do you mean by syntax? Okay. Okay. So what do you mean by syntax? That is the syntax. What do you mean by syntax? No, not exactly. Okay. It is something like this. Let us say you want to write an English sentence you want to write. When I want to write an English sentence, what we do? We follow certain grammar. Whenever you want to write an English statement, okay, sentence you want to write, you'll follow certain grammar. Example. So we say first letter should be always capital letter. Okay, then we'll have some subject will be there, object will be there, something like that. Okay, verb will be there, all like that. So there are some rules are there how you are going to form the sentence, right? Or for example, let us say that I'm going on the road, I'm driving a vehicle on the road. There are some rules are there, right? Something like that. I'm having some command is there, or I'm having some statement to be written. So that statement, how we are going to write that particular statement, what are the rules that you have to follow for writing that particular statement is what you call a syntax. For example, I'm having variable declaration. I want to declare a variable in my Java program. So I have to follow certain syntax, I have to follow certain rule I have to follow. What is the rule I have to follow? The rule is first I need to define the data type, then following the name of the variable equal to, you can have the value for it. It's optional. If you want, you can put the value for the variable, or if you don't want it, you need not to put a value for the variable. Like for example, so we talk about this syntax there. So this is the syntax that you're going to follow it. So first you're going to define the data type, maybe integer. You want to store the integer value, you'll be defining it as int. You want to store a character value, you'll use char. Like that, first you define the data type. Then next to that, you define the variable name. Okay, right. Now remember the value that we are going to put into the variable is optional. If you want, you can put a value into it. Otherwise, you can omit the value. It depends upon your requirement. You want to put the value. See, if I'm going to put a value to a variable at the place of declaration, it is called initialization. If I'm putting a value to a variable at some other location other than the place of declaration, it is called initialization. Sorry, assignment. You're going to assign a value to a variable wherever you want. You can assign a value. If you are assigning a value to a variable at the place of declaration, it is called initialization. This you have to remember. What do you mean by initialization? What do you mean by assignment? Okay. Yeah. We'll discuss one by one. We'll take the examples and we'll discuss them. Okay. So this one small example is being there. So okay, where I'm going to have a variable called f here. Okay, I'm going to have a variable called f. Yeah, I'm declaring a small variable called f here, or I'm declaring a variable called a, or I'm declaring a variable called b there. Now I want to put some values into that. You can put the values. Otherwise, I don't want to put a value. So like this, only you can just declare a variable float f I'm declaring the variable. Okay. So we'll take one example. So we'll see the example how it's going to be done for us. So as usual, only this class I'll be using the notepad. Next class onwards will not use the notepad. Okay, the last one. So now how I work with the notepad. So then first I'm going to my run Windows key plus R I am pressing. It'll get me the run. Okay, now I'm selecting the notepad. So once I'm selecting the notepad, so it will open a screen where you can type your program. So I want to type my program. So I'm using class DT. I'm giving a variable class name. I'm giving as DT. So it indicate for me it's a data type, something like that. So in this class, I want to have some method. I want to have the starting. We said that yesterday. We said that we have one method we call public static void main method is going to be there. So what is this method called public static void main means? This method is going to be acting as your starting point of your program. So that is going to be your starting point. If I'm not writing main method, I cannot execute my program. I can compile my program, but I cannot execute. That means I cannot see the result of my program. So let us see this public. So I'm writing it's a static void main. So this takes an argument for me string args. Okay. So it's not necessary that the flower braces should be placed only here at the end. You can place the flower braces anywhere you want it. No issues in that. But generally in the Java, what we do is we open the flower braces next to the next to that line itself. Will be opening it. I want to have a variable. Okay, int variable I'm taking. So variable I'm taking the name as a there is equal to, okay, I'm not putting any value there. So now I want to print the value of this variable onto my screen. Then I'm writing system.out.println. You can make this up or you can use print. So what is the difference between print and println means? Print just prints it, whereas println prints it onto the screen and adds a new line character will be added. That means the next output you'll be seeing into the new line. So whereas when I'm using print, it prints for me in the same line. In the same line, it is going to print for me. Okay, we'll take the example, we'll discuss that. Okay, now for example, let us say, so I'm writing a message called hello over here. So in the next line, so I'm trying to print system.out.println. Okay, I'm trying to print the value of the variable called a. Now let us understand what will happen if I'm trying to print the value of this variable called a here. We'll understand that. Okay, so I'll just save my program. So when I'm going to save my program, so what I've did is, so I'm using my class name as DT. So I'll follow the conventions, the class name and file name and save it as same thing. I don't want to change the names of my class and my file name. I don't want to have different. I want to have the same names, right? So before that, I just create one folder here. So I'm writing this. So in this one, I'm creating my class called dt.java. I'm creating the file name. Okay, and then I will say save. Okay, now I want to compile my program. So we'll go to the command prompt. So we have saved in the some other location we have saved it. Let us verify where we have saved it once again. I'll go to my file menu, save as I'm selecting. That is, you see that it's going to put for me where it is there for me in my C drive. Okay, users folder, admin, and then documents. There we have the folder J31 folder is there. On that it's going to be there for me. So I need to go to that particular folder. Okay, so I'll be going to the documents folder. Then so I'll enter into my J31 folder. Okay, there if I look into the dir command, you see all the file names will be seeing it. So I'm having another folder called class notes. So in this one, I'm having a folder called 1506. I have created it. So cd 1506 data. Now, if you look into the dir command, you see another file that is called data dt.java is there. Now I want to compile my program. So I'll be using Java C followed with my file name I'm giving it. Okay. So you remember yesterday what we did, Java C followed with the class, file name will be giving it. So the name of my file is dt.java. I'm just pressing enter there. It compiles my program. But if you look in, when I'm going to compile my program, it is giving me an error there. So what is the error it is giving? It says that the variable may not have been initialized. the variable that you are going to use called a, it is not initialized and you are trying to put the value, print the value of that one. So remember, in Java, the important thing is you cannot print the value or you cannot use a variable directly without putting a value into that. Okay, we cannot use a variable directly without putting a value into this one. So that's why what happened, it gives me the error now. So to avoid that one, so I need to put some value into the variable. I'll just say a is equal to some value I'm going to assign. After that, I can use it. I'll just save it. Okay, fine. So I'll go to the file menu and then I'll say save. My program is saved. Alt tab I'm using it to move to the command prompt. Now again I'm compiling my program. You see that the program will be compiled successfully. After successful compilation, if I see the directory list, so there is another file is created called dt.class file is created. That class file is same as the class what you have created inside your program. Now I want to execute. I'll be using the command called Java followed with the class name. So I'm giving a class name is dt there and I press enter. Now you see that it's going to show me the output there on my screen. Okay, so it is going to be print the value of my variable there. Now in case, okay, let us say I'm making some mistakes. Okay, sorry, I'm not talking about sorry mistake, not a mistake. So what I'm doing is, okay, I'm not using this print ln. I'm not going to use. Okay, I'll save my program. I'll go back to my command prompt. I'm compiling it first. Then I want to execute. I'm using up arrow key and down arrow keys. I'm using it to scroll to go to the previous command and next command. Now you see, hello is there. 10 is also going to be printed, but I'm not using print ln. So what happened? It printed for me in the same line. When I'm using print ln, it adds a new line character to be adding. So that means hello will be printed in one line. After that, 10 will be printed in next line. That's called new line character. We call it as. Okay. The next output, whatever you're going to get, that will be printed in the next line for us. Understood? So that's how the difference between print and print ln will be there for me. Okay. Now here, if I'm going to put a value here, this is called assignment. If I'm going to put a value here, it's called initialization. Now here I'm removing the assignment part. So I'll try to put the value here. I'll just say some value, some other value. So remember, this is called initialization. So what is that I'm writing double slash means? It's called a comment. It's called a comment. That means Java will ignore that. Whatever you're writing after the double slash, that is going to be ignored by Java. For example, I'm writing something for my understanding purpose, what I am doing there. For example, let us say that you are using some formula, you are using it. In a program, you are using some formula. Then comes a question like, how do you got that formula? Like, how we got that formula? Or what is the base for taking that particular formula? Let us take one example. Let us say that you are going to calculate the HR of an employee. You are calculating HR as basic into 20%. Now, why you are taking 20%? Who has given you that information? For that, I'll leave a comment over there. I'll be writing the information. This information is given by the HR, something like that I want to do. So you want to specify the name of the HR also, you can say HR XYZ, you will define there. So that indicates me that, okay, I got this information from some X person, I got this information. That's why I'm calculating as 20% of my salary like that. Understood? So generally we call that one as comments. Comments are something for the user understanding purpose. It's only for the user understanding purpose. Okay, that is not meant as a commands for the Java. So Java ignores that. Whatever you are writing that comments and all, that is going to be ignored by Java for us. Now that comments you can write in two ways. One is you can use double slash and you can write that. So after whatever you are writing after the double slash, it's going to be ignored by the Java. Or you can use slash asterisk and ending with asterisk and slash. You understand? So I can write the comments in two ways. One is slash asterisk and slash. In between these two, you are going to write the comments. Okay. Java, what it does is if I'm using like this also, it is also going to ignore that. Understood? If I'm writing slash double asterisk followed with ending with the asterisk and slash, this is also going to be ignored by the Java. So that also is called a comment only there. Now, okay, let us talk about this kind of comment. Now this kind of comment, it's called multi-line comment. So the other one, the earlier we saw that, okay. So we're using a single double slash, we were using it. So like this, we are writing some comments, we are writing it there. This is called single line comment. So only one line of comment I want to write, then I'll be using double slash and write that. If I'm writing the comment for more than one line, then what I do is I'll use slash asterisk ending up with asterisk and slash. So that is called multi-line comment. Now there is another kind of comment, this one. Okay. So I want you to find out what is this comment is all about. Understood? Understood what I'm telling? So we have a task for you to find out what is this comment is. Okay. Is this kind of comment is helpful or it is waste? Okay. I want to know from you. So I want you people should do some research work on that one and get back to me. Understood? Can you erase that? Yeah. Understood? So I can do the initialization, everything you can do it and you can get the things done there. Oh, okay. Let us talk about this. Now we are taken only what integer variable you are taken it. Now let us say that you want to have some float type of variable you want to have. That is, you want to have the numbers with the decimal point you want to have. You can what you can do. You can take a variable called float. Okay, I'll take a variable called f. I'll take some variable name. That's it. Nothing more than that. So I'm going to put the value. So when you say float, we said what in mathematics, floats and integers we are going to use. Sorry, floats and double we are going to use it for numbers with the decimal points. So when I want to have the numbers with the decimal points, I'll be using float and double. I'll be using. Now here what I'm doing is I'm writing 10.3. I'm writing it here. Okay, I'm writing 10.3. Now if I compile my program, okay, before that I want to print the value of that variable f. I'll just copy this, Control C. So to print that, I'm using Control V, I'm using it. Then I want to print the value there. Okay. So I'll say value of f is equal to plus a, I'm right. Sorry, f I'll write here. Okay. I'll just save my code. Now, if I look into the output of it, when I compile my program, so you'll see that it will give me an error there. So what is that error? Let us see this. I'll just compile my program. Yeah. That mistake. Okay, fine. Value of okay. So the mistake we did is sorry. I was supposed to start with the double quotes. Fine. Save it. Okay, I'm compiling my program. Now you see that I'm going to get an error now. So what is that error? It says the incompatible types you are going to use it. So what is that incompatible types? So what we said, numbers with the decimal point are considered to be as real numbers in your mathematics, but whereas in case of your Java, the numbers with the decimal point are considered as double. They are not considered as float. You would understand what I'm telling. The numbers with the decimal point are considered to be double by default, not as float. So that what happens is when I'm trying to put that, I'm trying to have the value 10.3 into the float variable. It is going me, it says that there is a loss of precision because of the incompatible type. Now, what is that loss of precision? What do you mean by precision? It's an English word, precision. What is this word, precision? Any idea? Not exactly. It's what we call the accuracy. So precision is a word we are using for the accuracy. Now here what it is telling that? It is telling that there is a loss of precision. Maybe there is a loss of accuracy is going to be there. So what is that loss of accuracy now here means? It says that double values are having higher precision, they have higher accuracy is going to be there, but float values are having lesser precision is going to be there. Now what is the difference in the precision means? Generally when you talk about the float, it takes 6 decimal points, sorry, 6 digits it takes after the decimal point. For example, you are writing, okay, float 10.12345 6. It takes up to the 6 digits. Whereas in case of double, it takes a double of that one. So it is going to take more than 6 digits it's going to take. So what it does, it tells you that the precision may be lost, the accuracy is maybe going to be lost for you when I'm going to use it as float type. So then how do I write that one means? So for that one, so you need to use f, you have to place as a suffix there. Okay, you have to put a f as a suffix indicating that you are taking that value as float value, but you're not taking it as a double value. So that is an indication for the system that you are telling that you are going to use the 10.3 as a float, not as a double. Now, when I'm using this one, and now I compile my program, it doesn't give me the error that error is not going to be given. I'm using a suffix as f, indicating that that number is of the type float, but not of the type double. So by default in Java, what happens is it will be considering that values as the double form, not as a float. To avoid that one, what you have to do, you have to use the suffix called the f there. That is at the end, you have to put f, right? So indicating to Java that it is a float value, not the double value, like that. So whereas if I'm using it as double, so nothing to worry about. So for example, I'm writing double, same variable I'll use. Okay. So for double, it's not required for me to write that. I'll just compile. So you're not going to get the error there. Okay. I'm not getting the error for the double. Only for the float, we'll get the problem there. When I'm using my float, it will be telling us you cannot assign the value directly. Okay. Any questions? Anything that you're not understood? Anything that you're not understood? Any questions? You understood how to declare the variable, how to put the value into the variable, or after that also. See, if I'm going to put a value to a variable at the place of declaration, it is called initialization. If I'm going to put a value to a variable other than the place of declaration, it is called assignment. We use two different words, that's it, basically. So assignment can happen multiple times. More than one place you can put the value into the variable, but declaration will be there only at one place. Okay. Declaration of the variable will be doing only once. Assignment, that is initialization of the variable will be doing only once. Okay. Assignment of the values, you can do it at multiple locations. Right? Yeah. So you need to initialize the variable. So remember, we don't have a concept what you call garbage values concept is not there for us in our Java. So we will not say that the value of the variable is going to be something else. Okay. So here you have to initialize the variables, then only you can use the variables for us. So we have something what you call scope, okay, or what you call the life of a variable. Okay, what is the scope means? How long you can use that variable? It's what you call a scope. So generally, when you talk about your Java, so in Java, the scope of a variable or what you call the life of the variable is only up to that block. Now, what do you mean by block means? Block is nothing but it's a set of statements which are going to put into flow braces, right? So we are going to have the set of statements, okay, which are going to open the flow brace and close the flow brace. The statements, whatever you are writing between these two flow braces, okay, it's called a block, right? Or we also call it a compound statement. More than one statement, you're going to put them into the flow braces. It's called a compound statement, you call it as, right? So in case of the compound statement, what will happen is the set of statements, whatever we are writing, each statement you have to separate it with again semicolon. Okay, the important thing one has to remember is at the end of every command, we'll be putting a semicolon in our Java. And the other important thing which you need to remember in case of a Java is a case sensitive programming language. What do you mean by case sensitive programming language means? It is going to differentiate between the small letters and capital letters. We'll take one example and we'll discuss this on scope. We'll talk about this. Now, let us say I'm using a variable called f here as small letter. Now here also I'm using it as only small f. But if I'm trying to use as capital F, okay, if I'm trying to use this one as a capital F, now let us see what is going to happen for me. I'll just compile my program. You see now, it says that the symbol what you're going to use, the capital F, is not declared, it says, right? So here it cannot find that one. That symbol called F is not found. But what I have done, I have used small f I have used, but I'm trying to use capital F. Okay. It says that that symbol is not there. You are not declared that symbol, that's what it says. So that variable you have to declare. That's how it's going to differentiate between the small letters and capital letters. Understood? Any doubts here? So what do you mean by differentiating the small letters and capital? We'll take one more example. Now, when we are working with our program, we wrote system there. System, I wrote the first letter of my system is S is capital letter. But let us say by mistake, I typed it as small s. I'm typing it as small s. Now let us see what is going to happen. Okay, I'll just change this one to small f so that my system understands it. There is a symbol is there called f. Okay, now let us compile this program and check. Now you see that it's going to show me that the message that, so what, system does not exist, it says. It says that system does not exist. That means, so in my Java, what is happening? It is going to differentiate the small letters and capital letters. If I'm writing capital S, it understands that is a command and it does that. If I'm writing as a small s, then it doesn't understand that's a command. Okay, then it says it is trying to give you the error message there. Okay, yeah. Any questions here? Any questions?
What is the role of plus there? Symbol plus is there now. What is the role of this?
Okay, we'll discuss that. Yes, yes, thank you. Good question. We'll ask, I'll explain it. Okay. You understood that? So what we are doing, a small letter and capital letter, we are going to use it. So then when I'm using small letter or capital letter, it is going to differentiate both. When I'm using a capital letter only, it will understand it's a command. If I'm writing a small letter, if there is another command is there with the small letter, it will understand that and it will be telling you that command will be executed for you. Okay, but here, so I have to write only as capital S. I cannot write it as small s there. Understood that? Okay. So any doubts here in this system.out.println? Yeah. No, no, no. I'll just explain you that. This part is okay. So capital F, small letter, capital letter. So if your command is there, if it is declared in capital letter, it will understand that's a capital letter. If there is a command is there with small letter, it will understand that there is a small letter. Same thing with variables also. I'm having a variable capital F, so it will understand that. I'm having a variable with small f, it will understand that. Understood? This part is okay for you. I'll explain the next part. Now, what I am doing here is, okay, in my program, when I want to print the value of this variable f, so there are two ways of doing it. When I want to print the value of the variable. Now, what we did is the first method, okay, the previous case we're talking about, the a variable is there. I want to print the value of the variable a. Then what I did, I just wrote, okay, previously what I did, I'll tell you that. So I wrote system.out.println and open the parenthesis, I gave a. So then what happened? It printed me the value of the variable called a value, it has been printed. Understood? The value of the variable a is printed for me on screen. Now, in the next line, what I'm doing is I'm trying to have the value of f I'm trying to print, but I'm also giving some message. Now remember, whatever you are written in double quotes, that will be printed as it is under the screen for you. Whatever we write in double quotes, that will be printed as it is under the screen. Okay, so that is called a string, or you call it a string literal, you call it as. It's a string constant. Okay, string literals it is called. Okay, now I want to combine a string and a variable I want to combine. I want to print the value of a variable and I want to print a string, both. That is some string I want to put, some message I want to print, and then the value of the variable also I want to print. Both I want to print on the same line by using one command. Then what I'm doing, I'm using the operator called plus there. Now generally what will happen is, okay, let us say that you are having two variables are the a and b are there. Okay, I want to add those two numbers. What do? You'll use the apply the operator called plus. We'll take that example. We'll explain you again. I'll just get back to this one again. So I'll take another variable called b. So I'll put the value 20 into this one. Okay, then I'll take another variable called c. So now what I'm doing, c is equal to a plus b I'm writing. So we'll discuss this. Fine. I was just telling you about the variable part. Like for example, I'm going to have two variables a and b are there. So I want to add those two numbers. I want to print the sum of those two numbers I want to print. Then what I'm doing is, I'll just say, okay, I'm printing only c variable value, I'm printing it. So if you print the value of c there, it is going to print me the sum of the two numbers. Now when I'm applying the plus operator on two numbers, what it does the work of the mathematical addition it is going to do it. So that means the 120 both will be added and will be placed into c for me. That's going to be 120. The value of a is going to be, c is going to be 120 for me. But whereas I'm applying the plus operator, a string and a number I'm applying it. F is my number. So that is a string first one. The value of f is a string, and then plus f is going to be a variable there. So when I'm going to apply this one, so here what will happen is, so here it will be concatenating it. What we call it as, it is going to join the values. So that if the message and the value f both will be added, it's going to be concatenated. Okay, it's going to do the concatenation. It's going to do it, or what you call it as concatenation means joining. Okay, so it's going to join the out. So the variable value and this both are going to be joined for me, and it's going to be printing for me on screen. Clear there that a plus operator is going to do the joining work. It is not going to do the adding work. It is going to do the job of joining. So both are going to be joined. So what it does is that number will be converted to string and both strings will be added. That is, they have been joined, and it's going to print me the output for us. Clear? Any questions there? What the plus is doing there? Now let us understand a little more on that plus. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm trying to have something more onto that. So I'll write system dot out dot println. So I want to print the value. Okay. Now I'll just say sum of, okay, the variable a and, okay, plus b is plus c. I'm writing. Understood what I've done? I want to print as sum of a plus b plus c. I'm writing. Understood what I'm doing there? I'm writing the sum of in double quotes. That means that sum of will be printed as it is. So if I'm writing a plus b plus c, it should be printing something for me. Before that, okay, for our understanding purpose only, I'll just divide this one into two lines, right? So I'm writing system dot out, sorry, system dot out dot println. I'm writing that a plus b plus c. Understand what I did? I wrote sum of in one line, and next line I'm writing a plus b plus c. I'm printing it. Okay, fine. Okay, leave it. I'll just add a plus b only. I'll add. Right. So let's save it. Then go to the command prompt. Then I'm compiling my program. Don't worry if you get any message. Why is that? Cannot find the symbol of. Okay, the variable we had removed that. Okay, I'll just remove this variable. File save, Alt tab. Okay, I'll compile my program again. Fine. I'm running my application. Now you see that sum of it will be 120. It is printing. Now the same thing. So what I am doing is I don't want to print it in two lines. I want to have it in one line. I want to do it. So I'll just do it. I'll just copy this. Now I want both should be there for me in one line. So I felt that I don't want to waste my commands there. So what I did, plus a plus b, I'm writing it. Okay. Let's save, compile, up arrow key I'm using it, then execute. Now you see what is that it is giving me? So a plus b I wrote. So value of a is 100. It is adding plus. Then b value is 20. That is also added. So that you see that the output is 10020. It is giving me. But what I wanted, I want to print sum. I want to print a plus b value. I want to add and then I want to print. So that is not doing that one. So how I do it? So for that one, so you need to write. I'll be putting this one into parenthesis. I'm putting this one into my parenthesis. That means I'm asking you to change the way how the calculations are going to be done, how the operators are going to work. I'm going to change it. So first what I'm doing is I'm asking you to do whatever we are writing in parenthesis. The first it's going to execute the what is there in parenthesis, and then it is going to add. So it will happen what? So a plus b value is going to be added. So you get 1020, you'll get, sorry, 120, you'll get that. And that value is going to be concatenated with the message. You would understand? So let us see this. Save it, Alt tab, go back to the program compiler. So compile, then execute my code. Now you see 120, you'll be getting it. So why we have changed the order of execution. So I'm putting something into parenthesis. So what I've placed into parenthesis, that is going to be executed first for me. And then it is going to concatenate. Okay. We are changing the preferences, we call it. We change the precedences. Preferences or precedences we are going to change. So whatever we are putting into parenthesis, that is going to be executed first, and then that result is going to be added to the string there. Whereas if I'm not using that one, when I'm not using that, what happened? So it will print in the string, then plus a, the value of a is going to be added to that string, and then plus b, that value is also added to the string. So what happened? You see the result is going to be 10020 will be shown for you on screen. Understood? You understood what I'm doing? Okay. So that's how what Java is going to work in a different way for us. So we need to understand. Or let us say I'm not writing like this. So I'm writing, okay, let me write this one also. Let me there. This output we are seeing it. I want to have another output we'll see now. So another way of writing it. So what I'm doing, so first I'm writing a plus b plus I'm writing. So here I'm not writing. Okay, just I'm trying to write this. Can you guess what will be the output? Can you guess? Can you guess? What will be the output? So 100 is going to be there. Value of A is my 100. Value of B is going to be 20. So 120 should be printing. Let us see. So it is printing 120 and sum it is going to print for. So why it is doing like that? Earlier it was printing when I'm writing after that.
Something after A plus B after sum is given to the print line. So sum is printed after sum. So it is after the execution of the program.
So it is something like this, what you call the execution line. So how you are writing some operators and operands you are writing. What is an operand? Operand is something on which you act on. For example, the variables are there 10, 20, the constants are there like 10, 20, the variable A, B, all these are going to be what? The operands. So the operator we are having plus in there. So when I'm talking about the order of evaluation, so how this expression is going to be evaluated means the expression is going to be evaluated from left to right. When the expression is going to be evaluated from left to right, so what will happen? First, A plus B will be added, then that is concatenated to string in the last case. In the last case, it is going to add A plus B, both are numbers, it will be performing the mathematical operation, and then it is going to add to the string. So whereas when I'm using string plus number if I'm giving, so first is string, second one is a number, so that number will be converted to string, it is concatenated, then next one also converted to string and it is concatenated. Understood now? So the difference how will be getting for me? So when I'm writing like this, okay, so here it is going to be concatenation is going to be done. Okay, so here it is also going to do concatenation, but first numerical addition is going to perform and then concatenate. Okay, like that. That's where the difference comes for us between those two. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. Any questions?
Sir, for multiplication also we can do like this one.
You can use multiplication also can be done, but multiplication will not be behaving like this. It behaves something different. Multiplication it will be behaving different for you. Let's see. Let's save it. Okay. So multiplication is different for me. Addition is different from multiplication. Why? Anybody can guess? Multiplication has the higher preferences than the plus. You are having plus is there and multiplication is there. Both you are using it. Then what will happen? Multiplication has a higher preference than the plus. So it gives preference to plus first, then it is going to do the multiplication for us. Okay. So first it is going to do the multiplication, then addition is going to be done. So we'll discuss that. We'll take one other example. We'll take. So I think in mathematics you might have heard about the BODMAS. BODMAS. Have you heard about that? BODMAS, have you heard? Mathematics, how the evaluation is going to be done. Similarly, here also we are going to use the same kind of principle you are going to use it. We'll discuss that. What is that principle? How it's going to do it? We'll discuss that. Okay. So let us not worry more about this right now. You understood only using the plus part. So plus, it is going to have the same preference is going to be there. So what will happen? Everything is going to be evaluated from left to right. So when I'm going to evaluate from left to right, what will happen? So first number is there, next number is there. So both these two addition is going to be done. Then string is there. So number and string concatenation happens. So whereas first string is there, then number is there, then number is there. So string is there. So next is number. So both will be converted to string. Concatenation happens. Next one is again concatenated and it's going to be printed. Understood? That's how the differences come for us between that and this one. When I'm using multiplication, the behavior is going to be different because multiplication has a higher preference than the plus. Okay, understood? Yeah. Any questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. We're talking about the scope of the variables, right? So we'll discuss about the scope in next class. We'll talk about. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. I'll stop the class here. So tomorrow we'll continue by 10:30, right? Before that, so there is a small thing that I want you to do it. So I'll share a Google Classroom code. I'll share. So you join. Everybody join to that particular Google Classroom code. Now, once you join there, I'll be putting some whatever the notes, whatever the programs I'm typing in my class. So those class programs I'll be putting into the Google Class. You'll get the notifications, right? And I want some assignments to be solved by you people. I'll be putting that assignment questions also into the Google Class. You'll get the code. Okay, so you'll be getting all the notifications. Everything will be getting to your mail IDs. I'll share the Google Classroom code. You just join to that Google Class. Okay. Yeah. So now I'll stop here. We'll continue on tomorrow's class.